It is.
What's a girl to do? Wrap it up.
Welcome to the Bear Collective podcast, a place where we meet you at the edge of what you know and dance with you into the depths of what you don't in all things personal development, relationships, and lifestyle. We empower you to take what you need and leave what you don't. Thank you for listening, watching, and subscribing. Now let's get into today's episode.
And we're going to go off the cuff.
We love them. I'm so glad you joined me in the little symphony.
What do you mean? I'm always a little shimmier and shaker.
You're very much a dancey person.
I have figured out about myself, if I really like you, I greet you a little dance when I see you.
I don't want to be paying attention to that now. I'm going to get really self-conscious.
And offended if I don't greet you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You be mindful of it too. Make sure you dance around me or this podcast is finished. No.
Love it. You know, just when you see people that you really enjoy or that you really like, you just, I don't know, expression.
Yeah, I tend to do a shoulder shake. Like,
Yeah.
I find I've got one friend who loves, like, you know, filming the crowd of girls when we go out for dinner or something. And every time I just have this urge to do a shoulder. I don't know it.
But that is that level of comfort around those people, right?
Yes.
It's not like you walk into a business meeting or a meeting with your clients and you're like, client.
Well,
maybe you do.
Maybe I have. Someone let me know. I probably have at some point. So I want to start by bringing up something like really admirable that you do. And I've been thinking about it a lot recently, just with some stories I've been hearing and things I've been reading and thinking about. And that is when you have gone through a breakup, you have chosen to really just, I don't know the word for it even, but like slow down and stop so many things to go internally and work on you. And I mean, would I be right in saying you're in one of those phases now? Definitely not at the start of one, but you're in a very self-reflective state post one of these breakups.
Yeah, I had a breakup last year, and I think there's two big ones that I've been through with with the same person. A whole other episode, but the first one was during, what is it, like that whole 2020, 2022 phase of things happening in the world. So there was something a bit easier about that when you're kind of locked in your house. That made it a bit easier to go kind of down at that time. I messaged a couple of friends and just said, like, I'm going into my own version of a silent retreat, like I'm going off my phone, I'm going off all socials, which, speaking to a couple of people recently, it's a very common theme for some women that I've been surrounded by that have gone through breakups themselves, that have, you know, just completely gone off social media and deactivated accounts and things, which I think is super healthy. And yeah, in my most recent time, it's really slowing down to kind of look at, I don't need to rush into anything to fill a void.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going into this to fill that void. I'm going into a relationship to, you know, hopefully have marriage, and a long-term marriage. I'm not going into wanting divorce. So really slowing down to be looking at the things that I needed to self-reflect on in the relationship, what was working, what was not working, things that I needed to discover about myself and to heal, and also like set the expectation for what I want going forward.
So lots of really important points that people can even just go into a relationship knowing whether they've been through a breakup or not. I think that, there's some fabulous points there. I want to pause a bit on the social media thing, because this is something that, you know, I speak about with people all the time too. What was it for you about social media and needing or wanting to come off of that?
I think it's very easy in a breakup when you're feeling quite down, you're feeling all the hurt, the sadness, the betrayal, the, you know, the loss, it's very easy to distract yourself
Mm.
rather than actually sitting with your feelings, sitting with the thoughts and healing through them. It's very easy to distract yourself with food. It's very easy to distract yourself in today's world with social media, even with Netflix,
Yeah.
you know, and just binge watch and make time pass. And I think this is where the saying of like, you know, time heals all wounds. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Mhm.
I think you have to do the work. Time simply just allows the emotion to dissolve, but it doesn't mean that it's gone away. It's simply just the sting of it or the explosiveness of that kind of emotion in that moment kind of dissolves.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's very likely to rear its head again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And honestly, so many people go on to stalk their exes.
Oh, yes.
And they
don't they?
And the amount of comparison and judgment and like you re-triggering yourself and re-traumatizing yourself based on whatever it is that you see them doing or not doing.
Yeah, I often think like, why do we choose to perpetuate the problem by going back in and putting ourselves through that?
We like to validate our pain.
Don't we? Don't we? And I think reinforce our pain sometimes.
Absolutely.
To stay in that like victim, woe is me, I'm not feeling good about this, I'm not moving on from this phase. I think some people might go into that behavior thinking, this is going to convince me that I'm doing better, you know, I'm healing.
Delusion.
Sorry,
delusion. You're not focused on you, you're focused, if you're focused on them in order to heal, you're not focused on you. Because you don't need anything outside yourself to heal. If you're focusing your time, your energy, your eyesight, your phone time, looking outside at those external things to validate why you have or haven't done something, it's just not gonna resolve it. No. Whatsoever. No. And you're more likely to repeat the same pattern. And how often do we see this viewers do this? Like the constant repetition of either finding the same type of person that we're dating or personality type that we're dating, or yes, us then also doing the same patterns ourselves within dating or relationships. And I think it's very easy that we can blame someone. So last year, my partner cheated on me. That was, and there is no way that is my fault in any way. I do not take that on board. That is his thing, his issue. That is not a reflection of me. Anybody who's been cheated on, I don't believe it is a reflection of you. However, there are things that you can learn about yourself. There are things that you can take away to put yourself in a position to set yourself up for success and the likelihood that doesn't occur to you again. Yes, yes. And not cockblock ourselves like we can with some of these ways we've already started talking about. And which basically reaffirms us doing those same patterns and getting stuck in those same relationship dynamics that really weren't healthy for us or felt good. And you know, there's often a reason they don't last. Yeah. If you purely blame the other person, they're responsible, they did this, they did that, you are cock blocking yourself from a whole bunch of lessons. You are putting yourself in more pain, prolonged suffering of the time to heal and get over it, and you're going to end up taking that baggage into the next relationship and repeating those patterns, and then, you know, sitting with a friend or a therapist or a coach or a parent going, why is this still happening to me? Why do I keep getting cheated on? Why do I keep breaking up in relationships? Why do relationships not work for me? Why do I keep attracting the same type of person? Like, if you don't heal and you simply blame somebody else for the breakup, even if there's a, like I said, cheating, valid reason, and I could simply sit, you know, in my experience, I could simply sit and go, he cheated, totally valid to separate, never see him, take him back, all the things, it's all on him. I didn't do anything wrong. I showed up, I had boundaries, I communicated, like I could just promote all the things that I did well. I would also be cock-blocking myself from seeing my own blind spots. And where I could take this opportunity to heal.
Yeah. And I think the shoe can be on the other foot. Like for myself, as someone who has cheated before, you have to go and do those same reflections of why you've done that. And you cannot just blame the other person. You have to look at why you did that.
Yeah, because it was a conscious choice at some point.
Yes. Yes, just to ensure you don't keep doing that as well. So it really goes both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, both people who separate in a relationship need to reflect, and you're also not in control of the other person doing that.
Yes.
Again, if you focus on trying to control the other person, you need to go to therapy, you need to get help, you need to do this, you need to do that. Again, you're just stopping yourself. You're prolonging your actual chance of finding love and finding, you know, that person that does value you, appreciate you, desire you, and treat you the way that you want to be treated. But if you don't do the work, can we talk about like how you then continue to be treated the same way? Because you're not learning the lessons to raise the standard, to value yourself more, and to also see, therefore, the behaviors that allowed you to be treated that way in the first place.
Yeah. Yes. You're kind of showing up as the same version of yourself, but expecting something different.
Isn't that the definition of insanity?
It is. As I was saying that, I was like, oh wow, yeah. But yes, without taking that time to reflect on your own patterns and behaviors and how you got there and how you want to show up moving forward, and building the skills to do that too, which all takes time. It's not going to happen like if you dive straight back into dating, as so many people can do. You truly do like stop yourself from becoming the version of yourself that you probably like the standard of yourself that you probably are holding yourself to or expecting that you're going to step into in the next relationship. And then you're kind of sitting there going, why isn't this happening for me? Why isn't this person writing back? Why do I keep attracting these men that ghost me or that just want sex or that just, you know, aren't really interested in much about me whatsoever?
Who gas me up, say all the right things that want me, and I fall for it, and then you know, it all falls apart 3 months later. I think that it's more than just red flags, and it's also more than, but I've already done the work. I've already done that. I've looked at my inner child. I've looked at my father wound and mother wounds, like last breakup. I don't need to revisit that. If you're repeating the same kind of pattern or any kind of experience in life, and especially in relationships, there is a deeper level of that work. And I think that's the stage where I'm at. It's just a deeper level of seeing things.
And I feel like, I mean, are you okay to share a bit about that? Like just in terms of how the deep work can look.
So I had to like ask myself and zoom back and say, okay, like what are, starting with, for example, one of the easiest things you can start with were red flags, right? Because when you're venting to a friend, healthy venting, which we do some episodes on this, under vulnerability, that when you healthily vent to a friend and you also ask for reflections or you just ask the space to be held, to be seen, you can see the things that are like, oh, I should have seen that as a sign, right? I think we've all been there where we've all said that,
in hindsight,
that was such a red flag. So actually taking those moments and kind of go, what is it within me that is actually happening? Or when that red flag was happening, how was I responding? Was I excusing someone's behavior? Was I being really accepting and loving and just supportive? Was I justifying? Was I just letting them have their space and time to do their piece and not actually bringing up a conversation to say, hey, I think you're sabotaging yourself here, and it's also sabotaging us in a relationship, or it's not the standard that I hold or that I want for the relationship. You know, if we fight, like, how are we going to communicate better? Not just like how we're resolving this fight, but like how are we choosing to fight? How are we choosing to resolve conflict? Because again, for me, I'm not setting myself up to be divorced. You know, and I don't want to just fill a void, which I think we can feel so much pressure about, which, you know, we'll get to. So it's really reflecting on that, and then looking at pieces like, what does trust mean? Like, I had betrayal happen as, betrayal trauma of somebody cheating. So then dialing that back to like, what does trust look like for me? How does trust show up in a relationship? And what are the signs and signals around that for me, that I'm giving to somebody that's trusting, but also where I need to trust myself to walk away.
Powerful.
I think so many people do not walk away from relationships soon enough.
And I see a lot of people, and I've been here, like, with so much indecision around, do I walk away? Don't I walk away? Do I, don't I, do I? Even in the dating game, is this person for me? Are they not for me? Oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, there's so much confusion.
Why is that confusion? Because you have not taken the time to know yourself.
Yeah.
If you know yourself deeply, like what you stand for, what you'll tolerate, what behaviors you'll accept or not accept, what's healthy communication, what's not, and a whole plethora of other things. But when you develop these things within yourself, you're going to see that person more clearly. You're going to, instead of sitting in that indecision, it's because it's like, are they like my ex? Because you've focused more so on your ex's behavior and how they showed up. You're just looking for those same red flags to be visible or not visible in this person to be the decider, and that's why you're indecisive, because there hasn't been enough time for them to prove that. So I'll give them a chance to prove themselves, but you're not actually checking in with your own values, your own, the things that I just mentioned before.
Even sometimes how safe you maybe feel with that person, because sometimes I feel like when we're questioning things so much, it's almost like a signal that our brain and our body are sending us that, like, we actually don't feel safe with that person, but it hasn't clocked yet because we haven't clocked what feels safe for me.
Or we're sitting in a lot of insecurity within ourselves in how we're showing up. And again, that's your opportunity to, what is it that I need to strengthen within myself so that I can show up and feel, I don't like to use the word confident in it because I just don't. I think confidence is made up of several things, like having self-trust, like having self-worth, like having self-love, and those things can require you to make tough decisions or have tough conversations. It is going into I think, like, if we talk about the pressure that women feel about, age and having families and settling down, and societal pressures, family pressures, even like the aunties or the uncles who may make the comments of like, your standards are too high, yet they've never lived with you, even sat and had a conversation with you on like, what are your standards? And maybe you've never even had that question with yourself, like, what are your own standards of how, not just how you deserve to be treated, but how you also treat someone, and the standards that you uphold for the relationship. These are the foundations that we are based on, and asking somebody in a dating scenario, like, what are the standards that you have for a relationship? Yeah,
it's a great question for a date. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, get to depth, people.
Early? Would you say early? Like, I think it's great to do this early.
Absolutely.
But then I can imagine so many people sitting here going, well, that's going to scare them off. But that's probably a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I've had some amazing dating experiences where that has not scared people off whatsoever. They've actually gone, I really appreciate this conversation. It'll set you apart. And those that you scare off, you're scaring them off because they're not there for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yes.
If they're scared by that question or some of those questions, if you're setting like whether you want family, like religion's a big thing, I probably wouldn't talk about finances. Like, that's probably one of the things I wouldn't talk on a date. But before going into a relationship committed, that would be a conversation. Because again, if you're dating for the intention of being long-term or being in marriage, you need to ask these questions early on, because it's your investment of time and energy. And it's going to reduce your pain and suffering at the end if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
How do you set your relationship up for success?
Yeah.
Purely through the conversations that you have. And you just need to know how to be playful and flirty on a date too.
Yes, that could help. Yes. Yes.
I call it the roller coaster. Like you
Please explain.
have depth, like when you go down, and then you have those high moments, like when you're going up and then you stay all the way down, which is, your laughter, your playful, your fun, but it shouldn't be monotoned in all seriousness, but equally so it shouldn't be kind of like monotoned in just being playful and performative.
Yeah.
To be liked,
Yeah.
to be wanted, to be defined.
And I guess then you're letting them see like, several facets of you.
Women are multidimensional,
Aren't we?
and that's the beauty of us. Like the feminine is so beautiful. Our emotional expression is so beautiful, and there's just ways to communicate that.
Yeah. Now I want to dive into the validation piece because we said we would. Before I forget. And just, how this can play in and really, I suppose, cockblock us with our self-development, with our dating, with our relationships, is that using external validation and trying to find that and use that, and you see this so often. I just think of like, people who date from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. Nearly couldn't say that. I've definitely got tired then. Yeah. Without doing things like what you've kind of spoken to, and and even what I've admired watching you do, in like taking the time, learn about me, do some research, what are my patterns, like really slowing it down. Yeah. Why is it such a big thing? Why is validation such a big thing?
I think it's a need that was unmet when we were children.
Like being validated by our caregivers.
Yeah, having feelings validated, even the self-validation of being able to trust yourself and know your intuition and what you're like listening to your gut and what it's telling you, in spite of even close people around you maybe saying the opposite. And being able to hold that contradiction or that conflicting energy of this is your gut feeling, and you're not going to be swayed by even the closest people. You're really going to make that decision for yourself. Yeah. So invalidation, it just comes up in so many kind of like areas in dating. I often feel like it's used to fill a void. Have seen over my time so many people just jump from relationship to relationship because they can't hold the space of not being in a relationship with that society pressure, because they feel more validated by society, family, friends, by being in a relationship. Yeah. That makes them feel like normal, or that they're on pace or on track with everybody else. I think pace is a good one, because it's like, when you sort of hit that mark and everyone's getting married and settling down, and I remember not being there and being one of like the later within my age group to start doing that where I live, because I also think the suburb or the city that we live in has a lot to do with it too. And I just remember that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where we come to timelines, right? I think there's so much in our 20s that we feel like a timeline, or we put this desire of like, I want to have met my person by 25, and by like 26 we've figured out our careers, and like we're traveling. By 27 we're engaged. By 28 we've got a house. By 29 we're starting to have kids, and I've had my first kid by 30. Yes. That is so many people's timelines, that when it doesn't happen like that, people get really disappointed, really depressed around that. And sometimes this is where they settle for relationships that are unhealthy. And I actually want to reflect something that you said to me, like when we were having a conversation, oh gosh, I don't know, a year ago, if not more, that really sat with me. And it was like, inside the relationship with a particular behavior that was showing up, can you accept this behavior from this person, your partner, but doing the same thing for the next year? How about 5 years? How about 10 years? Because this may not change. And if it doesn't, can you accept that? Is that something that you want to live with and you want to be comfortable with? Yeah. And that hit, because it was like, no. And for most people, the answer, I think, is no. Yeah. Because whatever you're feeling, whatever you're struggling with, whatever that is bringing up for you,
And for a lot of people, that can look like symptoms of anxiety and depression. Can you live with that for a year? No one really wants to. And a lot of the time, yeah, it's that home environment, that relationship situation, that boss situation that you're in that is partly a trigger for that.
And it just exasperates the more you have that time. And that's where on some of my travels, one of the most amazing pieces of advice I'd got from a couple who'd been married for like 40 years. And I was like, what's your wisdom? What's like your piece of advice? And she said to me that small things that annoy you in the beginning, like leaving the toothpaste cap lid off or whatever it is, either fix them quick in the relation, like very quick in the relationship, very early on, or accept them, because those small things become big things later on.
Yeah. I can so get that. The toilet seat. Wow. So, that it's really cool to ask people. I love that you do that.
Ask people who've been in marriages for a long time.
Yes.
Be careful. Again, use discernment and take what's for you and what's not, because not everybody is in a happy marriage. Some people have just settled. And I think something also that I want to reflect that I'm proud of with myself is I was one of those girls who in my 20s had that timeline pressure. And I ended up being a carer for my mom in my late 20s when she was going through cancer treatment, and then eventually passed when I was 31. So I was just in such a different phase of my life that was not even possible. Like if I had have accepted a relationship, or the relationship that I was in at the time, if I had have just gone through with like an engagement and marriage just to satisfy a timeline or society or family pressures, I would be divorced by now. And again, I come from a divorced family. It's not something I want for myself. So again, really just understanding that, holding the space, holding the energy of all those things, that those pressures, the insecurities, the questions, things come up for people around like worthiness, unlovability, connection. Oh, there's no men around, like, or women, whatever your preference is. Not true. Hold space. Really sit with that discomfort, learn about yourself, build yourself, and you will attract the right kind of person that is for you.
Yeah, I do really believe that.
Right.
I love it. I think, we've probably said so many ways we can cock block ourselves from relationships, or from really having like a successful time in the dating field, or in relationships, or in love, whatever it might be for you.
Really look at like understanding yourself more, instead of understanding the person more, the other person more. It's understanding yourself more. Like, what do you value? How are those needs or those values met? What do they look like, sound like, or feel like to receive? What are those red flags that you have when you like for somebody in a relationship that's a red flag, but also what does that feel like when it's coming up for you? What is the behavior that you do that is a red flag? Like, where are you making excuses or justifying someone's behavior, and then like, when you break up and you reflect back and you think, oh, that was a red sign, I knew he was justifying this or doing that, and I wasn't really okay with it, and I was just covering, like, so that everything appeared good, or because it seemed normal, and just everybody does it. Right. Really ask, how do I know that I trust somebody? How do I know that I trust myself? What does that look like? How do I know what love is? What does that look like?
And I just want to highlight, all of this takes time. We're not just going to read one book or do one course or have like one therapy or coaching session. Like, this is really deep work.
And you're making a lifetime choice. Slow it down. It's okay to take the pressure off. Slow it down. This is a lifetime choice. And you're going, regardless, no human is perfect, but you're going to choose a set of problems. What problems are you going to choose to have in your relationship that you're going to choose to be, solving throughout your relationship over time? Can the quality of those problems can look really nice and easy and solvable and fun and adventurous, versus triggering
Mm,
and blaming
mm.
and fights and arguing and projecting.
Yeah,
and-
reacting.
And just in constant reaction.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's healthy problems, and then there's the toxic, unhealthy, repetitive, moving nowhere type of problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, because a relationship really is going to include, whether we like it or not, like problem solving together.
Yeah. And that's even a great question in and of itself. Like, how do you problem solve, and how would you like to problem solve in a relationship? And that needs to be communicated, because you're also dealing with somebody who will have a different style. So how do you integrate the two and make it workable for success? How do you set your relationship up for success?
Yeah. And to do that, you need to know what your needs are first.
You need to know yourself.
Know yourself. Well, we hope you enjoyed that off the cuff episode, inspired by, you know, me watching this girl do her thing. And thank you for listening, watching, and subscribing. We will see you next time.
Hit that subscribe button.
Mm.
See you next week.
Bye.